Okay, we're live. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to Live with Leo at 5. I have, we do this every single day, Monday through Friday. So if you're joining on, please go ahead and say hello and let me know if you're watching um, the stream live or if you are watching on a replay. Just put in the comment replay. And we are going to get started in a second here. We're going to see, give a few minutes, give a minute for people to jump on. So if you're on, just say hello. Say hello. All right. Okay, so we'll just get started here. I have Tuan Nguyen here with me today, and I've been looking forward to this for a while now, and we finally was able to schedule a time for him to come in and chat with us on this beautiful Friday here in Irvine, California. And Tuan, you're in Houston, Texas, correct?
Yeah, Houston, Texas. Texan boy.
Yeah, Texas boy. That's awesome. Um, so yeah, so I invited Tuan here because he has a lot to share with us. He's a leader and inspirational figure in his world. He is a transformational impact coach. He works with coaches and consultants in areas of personal branding and through leadership communications. And he is the founder of M21 Empowerment. And what it is a certified leadership program. And he's a leadership speaker for the John Maxwell Team. Tuan is his passion is developing people and making them transformational leaders in the process. So welcome, Tuan. Thank you for joining me on this show. I'm super excited to have you here and share your story. Hope you're doing well out there in Houston. How's the pandemic treating you guys out there?
It's probably the same everywhere else. You just got to learn how to shift in the midst of the crisis and find new opportunity. I mean, it's definitely a season for growth if you actually can see that and get the insight. But I mean, overall, I'm doing pretty good, bro.
Great, great, awesome. I love what you're saying. This is and for me, especially, this is a really great opportunity to grow. I was talking to so many people over the last month or so, and the people that are around my circles, they're all taking the opportunities. They're seeing how we're not having to take time to drive somewhere, to do things, to go another place. So we got like extra time to really focus and not have this other distractions. Hopefully you're not distracted by all the news and everything, but you can really focus and on doing the things that you really want to do. And for some people, it's just time for them to pick up hobbies that they always love doing. You know, that's very self-developmental, you know, personal development as well. Just depends on what you're into. But for a lot of us entrepreneurs, it's really exciting. We've got a lot of eyeballs online, and we just love, you know, sharing our values, sharing our information out there. So I appreciate you being on. I think what we want to start is tell us about your story, your journey up to this point here, because I see you everywhere on Facebook, and I just couldn't wait to kind of see what has your life transformed into at this point. But I want to go back in the earlier days of, you know, who you are, what you were doing, and then what led you up to where you are now.
Right. Good way to start off, bro. I love that story, or it's actually a scene from the movie Alice in Wonderland. Okay, and so if you guys have actually seen that movie, there's a certain part of the movie where she's walking on this deserted path, and she runs into this fork in the road, and she has this divine encounter with the famous Cheshire cat. Everybody knows the Cheshire cat, right? And she asked the cat, which road should I take? And the cat says, well, where are you going? And she says, well, I really don't know. And the cat says, well, I guess it really doesn't matter then. And the reason why I love telling this story, Leo, is that was my life growing up. I mean, I grew up in this high performance, Asian driven culture where I thought that success was measured by how much money I made and if I was going to become this so-called doctor. All right. And I realized that that was not part of my plan. And so what it was since I didn't have a dream of my own, I ended up living out someone else's dreams. And so nothing made sense anymore because I didn't get any kind of fulfillment in living out someone else's dream. All right. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can attest to that. Let me give you an example. So when I went to school in middle school, nothing made sense because I didn't have my education tied to a dream. So imagine early in your childhood, if someone asked you that great question, like, Leo, what's your dream? You know, what's your dream? And they pulled that dream out of you. And you might have changed dreams in the process, but then once you find that dream, then you can attach the association on why education is important in obtaining or achieving your dream. I didn't have that. So what ended up happening, since I didn't have a dream of my own, I went and I started searching for validation from other people. I started trying to find my place of value in the world. And of course, that led me down a path of gangs, drugs, incarceration, and addiction. You know, I ended up going to prison in my early 20s. And I went to prison not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 times for a period of 10 years, bro. 10 years because I didn't have a vision for my life. You know, I thought that selling drugs, being a womanizer, you know, shiny object syndrome. I speak about how I had a self-image problem. I had substance abuse denial, right? And that was my way of coping. My way of coping was if I made myself look pretty on the outside, nobody would see what was inside. You know, actually, I did a post today on my my Facebook page, and it showed me driving like $100,000 Bentley car with like Gucci shades on. And in that picture, I looked like something. I looked like success, but inward, I was completely broken and shattered. I didn't have nothing. I was addicted. I was man, I was a complete mess. You know, I was a womanizer at that time. I mean, my life was totally out of whack, bro. And you know where I was going in that picture? I was going to church. I was driving a Bentley to church, wanting to be seen by the world because I wanted to look like success, but inside I was completely broken. But even in that picture, I was in my own prison and I was on my way to a physical prison when I was mentally inside, I was prison. I was in prison myself. And so I like sharing that because, man, that was the thing about having that self-image problem. I didn't have an identity. So I try to conform to everything else except living in my purpose. And just to kind of, you know, shorten up the story, you know, when I went to prison, that's when I discovered that, man, my value was based on what was inside me, not on what I put outside. And so I love this quote right here, Leo. You can't travel without until you first travel within. All right, let me say it one more time. You can't travel without until you first travel within. Winning is an inside job. Winning is an inside job. It's not based on the circumstances. It's working on yourself on the inside out to become a winner on the outside. I didn't understand that. I was never taught that. Personal growth. What is that? A personal growth plan? What is that all about? You know? And I discovered that I had this gift for communication. I had this gift where I was what people say, Tuan, you're like instant offense. You know, you put you in a room and you motivate, you fire people up. Well, I did that in the streets for like 20, 30 years. I naturally gathered people. I was really magnetic, but I used that for the wrong reasons. And so I love saying that I have over 20 years in sales and networking experience, not legally, All right. So I never became that so-called doctor, but instead I settled in becoming a street pharmacist.
Yeah.
Right. Just illegal. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like my story on how I went from prison to purpose. I discovered the John Maxwell Team. You know, I realized that when I was in that prison culture, the greatest need in there was leadership development. In 10 years, I never went through any kind of leadership development course. I had everything else in there that was working on AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. They had all these kind of drug programs, but I never saw anything on leadership development. And that's why I love asking this question, Leo, is in prison reform, are we creating leaders or are we creating followers? What I realized was most people don't see inmates or prisoners as leaders, so they will never invest in us to become leaders. So guess what happens when we get out? We can't lead ourselves. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But yeah, that's where my passion came from, was seeing the problem, saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be a victim of change. I'm going to be an agent of change. I'm going to be a catalyst for change, and I'm going to solve this problem. And that's where God just gave me that fire where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this.
So there's so much in there, and I really I'm really appreciate like the way that you kind of put everything together, because it's really deep. You know, I think especially just the Asian culture in general, they want conformity, right? So the more conformity you have, the better the society is, so they think, right? But as that might have worked, centuries ago, because that was how people got along. That's how people had society and be able to provide for each other for survival and things like that. But as our society has grown, especially in the U.S., we are encouraged more by our creativity and individuality. And so a lot of us who come from the Asian culture, and our parents or grandparents and all that kind of stuff, they were still, in the conformity phase. And so now a lot of us are like, well, hey, we weren't taught this, but now we have a discovery, just like you did through your journey, to say like, hey, something's not right here. It's not going well because I don't feel right inside, and it's honestly being reflected by what's going on outside as well. So the outside you're being influenced by the outside because you're letting it. So it's still an inside job to begin with. And so all of that stuff was reflected from the outside, but it has nothing to do with you, your true self, right? And so, so I really, appreciate you bringing, this up, and also sharing, your journey with that, and being, vulnerable with it, so that you can tell the story. Because I think there's so many people out there still, you tell them like, hey, this is an inside job, and you can say that over and over again, but you have to actually authentically feel it, and start the process of your life from the inside, because if we're so externally exposed, like everything we see is outside, and input, and we get to a point like we're just reacting to the input. We're not being ourselves. We're just reacting to what we're presented with, rather than starting what we want to begin with, and then that will change your external world to match. But if you're not looking for it, it's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think I think that's really profound. I think that I wish there's more people like you to, like, hey, coach people one-on-one or through a group or something like that, so that they can think about how their life is and how they can start working from within, like you did. So so that, how long ago was that when you kind of started that when you kind of changed over and realized that?
So it was March 14th, 2014. Completely in my mess. I spent a lot of time. My daily schedule consisted of being in the strip club. you know, that's where I held most of my business meetings and after hour clubs. I mean, you guys can kind of picture that already, what that life looked like. It's a dangerous lifestyle. And, you know, one thing I did know is consequences come with that lifestyle. But I mean, those are the choices that I made. And it was, you know, what's crazy though, Leo, is since I've made that choice for so many years of my life, I pretty much kind of settled for the consequences. So even though I know consequences are coming, I became desensitized to it. You know, I would kind of brush it off. And so I remember I had a so-called acquaintance of mine. I thought she was my friend. She actually had set me up this whole time. So here I am. I've been willing and dealing with these so-called high-profile drug dealers, but the whole time they were narcotic officers. You know, and so I mean, it's just this journey, and I love saying this because I'm a man of faith. You know, I'm a Christian, so I believe in Jesus Christ, and but that was the beginning of the journey where God had this call upon my life. And I realized that despite how far I am from God, the calling upon my life, I mean, my sin is never greater than his call. And so I knew deep down inside, Leo, that there was going to come a time where I had to quit running. There was going to come a time where God was going to allow my sin. He was going to allow my disobedience to bring me to a place. We use the word obscurity, right? And I love using the word obscurity because it's a place where you're concealed, you're confined, you're hidden from the world. I love this quote: never chase success, but rather become a person of value. The reason why I went to prison so many times was I wanted to be discovered by the world, but I wasn't willing to be developed. Okay. I wanted the instant fame and popularity. I wanted the shortcut, you know, and I thought by selling drugs, making money, being around nice cars and beautiful women, I thought that gave me that image of success because that's all I knew. It's all I knew. I wasn't comfortable being amongst people that were educated and successful. That was out of my comfort zone. So I surrounded myself with people that were below me or inferior to me. And you see how that works? I love using this example where I was like a chicken amongst chickens. So it was like there was many days where I stepped outside the chicken coop and I would look up at the sky and I'd see all these eagles soar and I'd be like, man, one day I want to be like them. And then that was just a thought. And then I'd go right back to the chicken coop and I hung right back out with the same old people, places, and things because that was comfortable for me. Because that made me feel like somebody, even if it was just a little bit higher. You feeling me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that analogy because like you're in the chicken coop with all the other chickens, but you're looking up, you want to be the eagle. So like what came across my mind was that you dressed yourself up as an eagle, and then you showed it to the other chickens. You're like, hey, look at me, right?
That's a good way.
Yeah, that was what was going on through my mind.
Yeah. That's me dressing up and having the appearance of me being able to. I love this example here. Chickens have wings. They have this appearance of looking like they can fly, but in reality they can't. But that was me, because here, take note of this. You can never outperform your self-image. How you see yourself will always manifest in how you act, and that was me. Like I thought I was something, but because of my poor self-image, I always went back to the chicken coop. I had this lid. It was a lid on my self-image. I could not grow above that until that lid got broken. And I didn't get broken until I went to prison.
Yeah, you know, let's follow this analogy a little bit more. Okay.
Okay.
Because I really like it. So you're in this chicken coop and you're a chicken and you're on the inside. To so there's a few layers here, right? Like we said earlier, like you're looking up at the sky, you see the eagle, you want to be an eagle, so you dress yourself like an eagle, but at the end of the day you're still down on the ground with all the other chickens, right? But then on the inside beneath the chicken, you are actually an eagle, right? And nobody can see because you didn't develop it, you didn't show it, but you were actually eagle that was kind of kind of like dressed up as chicken, but then the chicken was trying to dress up as an eagle
Yeah.
externally, right? So you found that inner eagle, and so then you took another path and made new choices, and kind of ended up where you are today, right? So tell us a little bit more about that journey. Like, okay, what did you decide to do first, and how did you ended up being a coach, and what that work entails later on. But I want to hear about, like, your journey, being a coach or developing as a coach.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't realize that I had a gift in leadership and communication until I really went to prison like 3 times. Every time I went to prison, I was always in leadership. A funny story, Leo. Funny story. I was the only Asian guy at one of my prison units that led a predominantly all Mexican gang. Okay. Crazy how that happens, because Asian guys don't lead predominantly Mexican gangs. Plus, the unit I was at, there's not a lot of Asians. So Asians usually run with Mexicans, right? And it was funny. And that's when I first realized that I had the gift of persuasion. I had the gift of speaking, communicating, and I was a peacemaker. And people always recognize that. So here I am. I'm in prison. I'm considered what you call the speaker or the shot caller for the gang. And it was crazy to see how all this evolved. I ended up becoming part of the ministry team. So here I am preaching the gospel now, learning how to do sermons and stuff like that as a gang leader. Crazy. I'm in a gang. Go to church one day, the chaplain's like, hey, you got a call on your life. I want you to be on the ministry team. And I'm like, okay. But I knew God had a call on me. So I went ahead and did that. And but that's when I realized that, man, there was leadership. There was a leadership desire in me. Moving down, when I caught my 16-year sentence, I got out, went back in for another 5 years. That was when I discovered John Maxwell through leadership communication, through a class that I started teaching. And I realized this is the missing piece in my life, because I didn't know how to lead myself. So I'm never going to be successful. And I always say this, that 2 elements or 2 things that most men in prison lack is, number 1, vision and authenticity. And so since they don't have a vision for their life, they don't have a plan for their life. And if you don't have a plan for your life, you're going to end up falling for the plans of someone else. And I can attest to that. I fell under the plans of Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And what they had planned for me was not about nothing. The second part is authenticity. You have to know yourself to grow yourself. I mean, God created us as originals, but most of us become imitators. And let me tell you, it's not fun trying to be an imitator, because you're operating outside of your God-given potential. You're trying to fly when you're supposed to be climbing as a squirrel. Think about that, right? Every single animal that was created by God maximizes their potential. There's not one animal that does not operate in its purpose. Mankind is the only creature that does not operate in their full purpose. And I look at that, I'm like, man, so many years I started realizing that in leadership, what makes a great leader is one that can recognize another person's potential, that they can recognize another person's ability. The gravest mistake I made in leadership early on, Leo, was I didn't recognize what you could be great at. I thought you could do whatever I do. And I used to give you these expectations of being able to fly when I should have gave you the expectation of just climbing. And since you didn't know yourself and I didn't know yourself, I could never develop you into becoming the best leader, because I didn't have the insight and the understanding on seeing what's inside you. I remember watching a VHS tape of John Maxwell. Never forget this moment. In that video, John has a speaking engagement. If you guys don't know John Maxwell, he's the #1 leadership guru in the world, over 40 years in leadership, written over 108 books, sold over like 32 million copies, had trained over 6 million leaders worldwide. Like, his credibility goes on and on. I watched this VHS tape, bro. You remember what VHS tapes look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big hunk
Bro,
of piece of
yeah.
plastic.
Yeah, bro. I'm teaching John's material through VHS tapes. And there's a moment where in his video, he just finishes speaking to like over 2,000 people. And during his break, he tells this story about this young man that comes up to him. And the young man says, "Hey, John, man, I love what you do, bro. I've been watching you all morning, man. You've been speaking on leadership. You've been making people laugh. All you do is just sit there and you drink some water and then you speak and you make people laugh. I'm counting like X times how I'm counting 2,000 people times X amount of dollars. Like you're making so much money just sitting here speaking and making people laugh." And the young man said, "Man, I love what you do." And he goes, "As a matter of fact, I want to do what you do." Yeah, I want to do what you do, John. And in that moment, when I was sitting there in prison, I was leaning in because that young man was me, Leo. That young man was me saying, "John, I want to do what you do." And as I watched that video, John's response was this. He told the young man, "Hey, I understand you want to do what I do, and that's great. That doesn't impress me. What does impress me is what are you going to do to pay for it? How are you going to get there?" And this was the mic drop right here, Leo. He said, "I know you want to do what I do, but are you willing to do what I did so that you can do what I do?" And that moment right there was the moment where I said yes to myself. That moment right there was the change of my trajectory where I said, "Okay, I'm going to the window of life right now. I'm going to the casino of life right now, and I'm not going to go just a little. I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to say yes to myself, and I've never looked back."
Awesome. I think that's a great story of like really, really a mind shift that changes everything, in your life, because that was the key to finding out like, hey, I don't have to make all those choices I made before just because of my surroundings and the people I was around. I can make a choice of what I want. And, two people can be presented the same thing, but so like one example that I was thinking of, like, okay, a person can love money, right? And say, hey, I love money because, money can buy me things and all stuff. I'm going to go get me a ton of money, right? And that's my
Right.
life mission. So you got one person, both two people, both of them love money, both of them want to go after it. But you got one person that's going to go rob banks, you know, is going to go and uh, uh, lie and cheat people to get the money. But then you have the other person who could choose something else to say, hey, I'm going to earn it. What can I give to people that they'll give me money? What can I, sell them? What can I say to them? What can I give them? What value can I give so that I can get that money back? So both love money, right? But two completely different ways, right? And so if you're willing to do those things, to do it the right way, and to fulfill yourself, because ultimately we're fulfilling ourselves and we're fulfilling others rather than take to get what we want, right? So I think that you just described, like, the differences in path and how you decided you had a choice to make, and you made a different choice and realized that, hey, this is a choice that I could have made, but at least now I learned this lesson. This is where I want to go, and I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to teach people what I learned, what choices I made, and see if they would like to make those choices too, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So tell us about like your so now you are full-time coach with the team, and tell us more about like your day to day, and what can you share with people, and more importantly, um, what what can you what can you tell people who are thinking to themselves like, hey, you know, I've been doing what my parents wanted. I've been doing what, my friends wanted to do. I've been doing things that, I don't really know what I want, but these are the things that people around me are doing, so I'm doing it too. What can you tell those people to really start being choosing from their authentic self?
That's a good question because we're speaking to so many people here when you ask that question. And so I'll use this as an example. You know, one of the greatest questions on one of the greatest questions you can ask someone, Leo, is why do you do the things you do? Right? Why do you do the things you do? And you can pull so much from someone. And even with their response on answering why do you do the things you do, you'll be able to hear on whether they're living in fulfillment or they're just living in obligation or a duty of doing it. And so I love asking this question: are you fulfilled with what you're doing? When you wake up, are you fired up? Does it fuel you? Does it give you energy? Is it even work? You know, I love developing people, Leo. Like, I love it because here's the thing. It's my passion. And the reason why it's my passion is because something happened to me. And because something happened to me, my life was transformed through faith. And then the next level up was through leadership and communication. Now I became a person of impact, because even though I was transformed, the only way I was going to transform others was I had to learn how to lead and communicate. I had to learn how to transfer the potential that God has placed inside me to the next man. And that's the thing, you know, two of the greatest questions I love asking now, Leo, is what are you doing to develop yourself? And what are you doing to develop others? The first question is foundational for you. The second piece on what are you doing to develop others is about the compounding and multiplication effect. Because when you're able to develop people, that's when you can grow and scale a big business, is when you learn how to develop other people. And so going back to your question is, what's my best advice? I just got to ask the question, are you living in fulfillment? And if you say no, then you know what? Take a chance on yourself. Like, there's no better time to go after your dreams right now. Look, here's an example. Some of you guys have dreams written on your refrigerator. Take it down. Take those dreams down. Like, you know, dreams are free. I went to bed last night and I had a dream, but that was free. The journey is not. You understand what I'm saying? And here's another thing too. If your dream's too small, you don't need nobody. If your dream's too small, you're not gonna need nobody. But when your dream is bigger than yourself, that's when you realize you're gonna need a dream team. And dream teams are not just gonna come to you. Because if you want to go find high-level leaders that can help you build around your weaknesses, you got to go find them. No one knows that you got this dream written on your forehead. And that's why I love this piece right here, is when in defining your dream, you got to start speaking it out. You need to start verbalizing and visualizing. Verbalize and visualize. Say it often and see it often. And that's what happened to me. When I was in prison, I began to verbalize and visualize, saying it often and seeing it often. And it came to the point where I started living out what I was saying, because at first I might have not believed it, but the more and more I walked in it, and here's the thing, your dream, your vision will always get tested for authenticity. And many people quit at the first sign of opposition. How many people quit at the first sign of opposition? So many times, Leo, I wanted to quit because no one believed in me. I had counselors in prison tell me, Tuan, that leadership stuff, it's never going to work here, bro. You're living a dream. It's a fantasy. But in those moments was when I was being tested on whether you really believe in what you're saying. And once I overcame that obstacle, man, there was no more turning back, because I started seeing it, you know. But yeah, whatever you got written down on your refrigerator, take it down.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Dreams are free, and they come and go, right?
They come and go. Everybody has them.
Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. I think people are, you know, when you go all in on yourself, there's nowhere to hide. Nowhere to hide, right? People can see through you if you're not authentic to yourself. You're not walking your own path. You know, it's easy. You just demonstrate it. You just ask that one question. Hey, why are you doing what you're doing? There's no faking it, right? Like, you know,
Absolutely.
they don't have an answer. Well, there's your answer. If you do have an answer and it's not it's not authentic to them, well, you see right through it, right? Because their actions don't match what their why is. So it's very easy to take apart, you know. So I think there's no way to hide, and I love what you're saying earlier, because I'm the same way. Is, hey, what am I doing right now? Am I going all in on me? Okay, and because I'm all in on me, I have more to give to others. But if I'm not all in on me, you know, I got nothing to give, right? And so, and that's 100%. Hey, if I'm thinking about like, hey, there's this program, it's whatever, it's $5,000. I got the money, but then, you know, it's going to really hurt, you know, and I got to make sure that it's going to be worth it. But why am I doing it? I'm doing it to invest in me. And the more I invest in me, the more I can produce, right? I think a lot of people make that mistake, right? They can't, they think it's all about the number, the dollar, right? But then if they think in terms of value, what they're going to get back, all the entrepreneurs know this, right? Hey, if I put $1 in, can I get 100 back?
Yeah.
You know, and the answer is yes. Like, oh, that's a good investment, right? Well, there's no better investment than investing in yourself, being able to, uh, like you're doing, being able to lead. I mean, that's like you said, compounding. You know, you can do that from a one-to-one relationship to 1 to 100 to 1 to 1,000, and some of the great ones, you know, they have thousands of people that they can influence, you know, at the same time. Well, that's valuable. That's why, your story was super great about John Maxwell, because like the young guys, like, hey, I want to do what you do. Well, in order for you, you know, to be able to give as much value, well, you got to climb that mountain to get there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So great. Well, so tell us more about how people, uh, how are people interfacing with you and getting introduced into your coaching? It's the M21 Empowerment is the main thing that you work on, correct?
Yeah, so I have two big projects. So I do speaking and coaching full time. So I work with a lot of coaches and other consultants, really in the areas of how you lead and communicate will represent your brand. So last year I started mainly just in the leadership speaking space where I coach and develop high level leaders. But then I realized that as I kind of just continue to progress on this coaching journey, I found this passion for personal branding. Okay. I found this passion for personal branding because what I came across was so many coaches that didn't have any kind of branding. They had a label. They simply had a label and they didn't know how to market. They didn't know how to brand themselves. And then because of that, the lack of branding, they were never set apart from everyone else. And so when you think about that, how are you going to compete in this world of social media where you got thousands upon thousands of coaches that are dropping offers, they have their own specialty, and then you're just kind of like another average coach with no personal brand or message? And I started realizing, I was like, man, I want to be that coach that really helps others set themselves apart. And so, yeah, this year I've spent more time in this last few months really just kind of rebranding my coaching towards leadership communication with personal branding all together. So I'm really refining that right now. But yeah, I have my own Facebook group. So we really specialize in social media strategies and personal branding right now. M21 Empowerment Group. I think you're in it, Leo. I do that. I got another big project where we are big on prison transformation. So I also work as an associate trainer with John Maxwell's nonprofit Equip Foundation, where they've trained over 6 million leaders in 196 countries. So that's a big project for me moving forward because I see the prison culture as a lost nation within a nation. It's a forgotten culture. Not only is it a forgotten culture, but so many people don't believe in us. And I really saw that God allowed me to go through there to become that ultimate tour guide, right? I'm not your travel agent. I'm your tour guide. I'm your tour guide because I've been where you're at. I can speak the jargon. I know all the terms that you guys speak because I'm one of you guys. And since I've been there and I've done that, I can show you how to overcome. and so that's a big part of my passion moving forward. So we're seeking right now. I have a couple of John Maxwell leadership programs inside prison fellowship, but just moving forward this year, we're seeking to scale those programs and maybe like to 90 something units. So that's going to be a big project on, that I'm working behind the scenes. I don't really talk about that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations on working toward that goal, and I think it's such a needed. It's there's so much need in that because, like you said, it's like a forgotten nation. People like don't want to look at it, don't want to work on it, and it's just like, hey, this is just kind of a thing we kind of shove on the side, and we don't want to deal with it, right? But these are real people with a lot of potential and with a lot of value that they can give to the world with the proper opportunity and guidance, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
So yeah, so on the M21 empowerment, so the best way for people to learn more about it is just join the group.
Yeah, join the group. I mean, I do a lot of free training in there, give a lot of tips and tricks on social media strategies. You guys can also find me at our website, www.m21empowermentgroup, empowerment.com. But outside of that, I'm pretty active on IG, but Facebook has really been my main platform. I've kind of fallen in love with that platform. A lot of people operate in many different platforms. Me just operating in this space for about a year now, Facebook has really worked for me because of the whole dynamic of building community, adjusting to the algorithm, understanding all these little things that prison culture doesn't teach you. Like, coming out of prison, Leo, they don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. Like, coming out of prison, after doing like close to 10 years, it was kind of like, okay, create a business, start a coaching career. Like, are you insane? Let me give you this example. You'll find a lot of value here. I realized that I was going to have a hard time coming out of prison because of my felony background. I knew that most men coming out of prison place their value on their 9 to 5. Okay, I'm going somewhere with this. Most men coming out of prison place their value on a 9 to 5. What helped me out, Leo, was when I was in prison, I placed my value on the gift that was inside. And so the gift was communication, leadership development, and I honed in on that. I honed on in developing that, and I realized my gift will always make room for me wherever I go. And I had that on the forefront of my mind. The other thing that really shifted was a mindset. Back then I used to try to chase after millions, right? I never got there. But the mindset now was, upon getting out, I had the $1 million mindset. And I'm not saying I went out chasing millions. The $1 million mindset was, I believed that I was worth more than millions. And I knew that becoming a person of value would have success and the world come seeking out after me. I had it all the way there. I had it flipped around before. I was chasing after fame and popularity before. I wanted the world to discover me. I wanted the world to chase after me. And I realized I had it all wrong. If you become a person of value and you become a problem solver instead of becoming a problem to society, guess what? You're going to become valuable. You got to know what your gift is used for. You got to find that problem. You got to be that solution. You got to be good at it.
Yeah, Tuan, you hit the nail on the head, man. I mean, that's the whole that's the holy grail to me right there. Because everything on the inside, you're more valuable than you ever dream of, and you just have to not be distracted by all the external things and work on it from the inside out, as we've been talking about. And I think every question, every action you make, because is that something that's truly authentic to you? And if it's not, then you need to do something else that is truly authentic to you. And I think you totally you found that in your life. Congratulations to you. You're an awesome leader. You're an amazing person, and you are out to do as much good as possible in the world, and I really appreciate that. So everybody, you guys are on or watching the replay. Go check out the empowerment M21 Empowerment Group. Tuan will be there along with the many other people who are super inspirational over there, and see if you can do more to develop yourself and bring more value. And with value, you automatically get all those things that maybe you've been chasing after, right? So great. Well, thank you so much, Tuan, for your story, and you're just an inspiring person. So I'd love to have you come back sometime again and share some more of your knowledge as you continue your journey. As per our tradition, we have a couple of questions for you. Number one is, what do you love about where you live in Houston?
What do I love about where I live in Houston? Houston is considered one of the most, I think maybe the most diverse city in the entire world. If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the most diverse cities in the entire world. I just love the culture here in Houston because of so many different cultures and nationalities in one place.
Mhm.
You know, that's something that I love. I love our sports teams, even though the Houston Astros got caught cheating this past year. But we'll bypass that, man. Yeah, but it gets hot. It gets really hot down here, Leo, and I'm not a big fan. And the reason why is in Texas prisons we don't have any AC. Not saying that I'm going back. I'm just saying that it reminds me of those sleepless nights where literally I had to like sleep on the floor, on concrete floor with a wet sheet because it was so hot sleeping on a mattress. And all you had was this little portable fan. That was a bonus right there, by the way.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I
Yeah.
know it gets hot in Texas, like, over 100 sometimes, and if you're cooped up in the prison or something like that, that's got to be harsh.
Yeah. It's not pretty, bro.
Yeah. So okay, and I know that you have a quote that you like to share with everybody.
Right.
So go right ahead.
Yeah, I live and die by this quote: never chase success, but rather become a person of value. That was actually rephrased and repurposed by Miles Monroe, but originated from Albert Einstein. Okay. And you know why I love that quote so much? Because I live that. I live that. I used to chase success, but I realized if I become a person of value, success will come chasing after me. It's a byproduct of you becoming valuable. And you'll be valuable wherever you go because of that one principle. That changed my whole life.
Yeah, wherever you go, there you are. If you're a valuable person, you'll be valuable in Houston or anywhere else in the world, right?
Everywhere.
Every-
Anywhere you go. Yeah. Good
Absolutely.
stuff.
So, well, Tuan, you're a person of value, and I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on and sharing your amazing story and being vulnerable with all that stuff you learned. I think that brings a lot of value to anybody watching you, and hopefully a lot of people can from this video can go and follow you on the M21 Empowerment Group. And so that's it for now. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate you guys very much. This wraps up our week on Friday, and I'll be back on Monday. I will put the link down there. We have a YouTube channel where all of this stuff is a store for replays for future viewing. And if you like if you like our show here, if you like our interview, if you like what we're doing here, please go ahead and like the post and or go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. That's it for now. Happy Friday to you all, and have a wonderful weekend. I will see you Monday. Thanks, Tuan.